This may seem like a fairly simple rule, but what often occurs is that poll workers will not always understand or may forget these rules and policies. In the 2008 elections, among Asian American voters who were required to provide ID before voting, under HAVA, 68% had voted before and were not required to do so. On occasion, demands for identification by poll workers became excessive. In a previous election at one poll site, all South Asian voters were required to show up to 3 different forms of ID, regardless of whether or not they were first-time voters. So far, we've gone over issues regarding excessive ID checks, missing names of voters, paper provisional ballots, and poll site misdirection. Other problems voters may experience include broken voting machines and, as discussed earlier, difficulties with or lack of language assistance. One of the biggest problems to look out for on election day is issues with poll workers. For the most part, there are many well-trained poll workers who do a wonderful job assisting voters and Asian American voters and following election protocol. However, this is not always the case. It is not uncommon for Asian American voters to run into a discourteous or at times a biased poll worker. In previous elections, there have been many reports of poll workers who have made racist remarks towards Asian American voters, refused to allow Asian American voters to vote, and refused limited English proficient voters to use language assistance, even though it is available at the poll site. Some poll sites have even been found to divide voting lines by race and made all Asian American voters wait until everyone else has voted because they wanted to allow, quote, everyone who spoke English to vote first. It is highly recommended that you read our 2008 Access to Democracy report and familiarize yourself with the common problems Asian American voters experience on Election Day so that you are better prepared with what to look out for when you volunteer. On Election Day, every volunteer will work at least one 3-hour-long shift. Volunteers are more than welcome to work more than one shift, or all day even, depending on your availability. In New York City, poll sites are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. In Boston, Massachusetts, poll sites are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. During your shift, you will be conducting the Asian American Exit Poll Survey and interviewing voters who may have experienced a voter problem. We also ask volunteers to help with post-election activities as well, if they are available. After the elections, we will need help following up with every voter who filled out an incident report form with us to get more details of what happened. Any Asian language skills will be very helpful, especially when interviewing limited English proficient voters. However, it's not necessary since we provide the survey and incident report forms in translated languages. We will notify you with your poll site and shift assignment via email by the Saturday before Election Day. If you have not received your notification by that weekend, please call us immediately on Monday or email us immediately at votingrights@aaldef.org. On Election Day, please bring with you an ID and a printout of the authorization letter that was mailed to you. Usually we'll be stationed inside the poll site's building's entranceway. However, in the event we are forced to work outside, please bring some warm clothes in case it gets cold. Again, this is a nonpartisan effort, so do not have any campaign materials on you. For example, please do not wear pins or t-shirts supporting any candidates. Now, on Election Day, you will arrive to your assigned poll site at your assigned time. You can find our station by looking for this sign which will say Asian American Voter Survey. Once you find where we're stationed, please find the AALDEF site supervisor to check in. The AALDEF site supervisor is the person in charge of all the volunteers and the materials. In the event that another nearby poll site does not have enough volunteers, the site supervisor may ask you to move to the other poll site. Otherwise, after checking in with the site supervisor, please put on a name tag so voters can clearly identify who you are. You'll be using 2 primary tools during your shift. First, there's a voter survey questionnaire. Second, the voting incident report form. Remember that the survey is both anonymous and confidential. The incident report form is confidential as well, but not anonymous since we ask for the voter's contact information in order to follow up and fix any voter problems. Please take a moment to download one of our sample surveys and take a look at it as we go through how to use the survey in the next several slides. This is more or less what the exit poll survey form will look like on Election Day. Each jurisdiction will have slightly different headings and responses, but the basic format is the same. Please take a moment to familiarize yourself with the format and questions on the survey. These surveys are like a Scantron or will be scanned into a computer for data collection. Thus, it is important to explain to the voter that they need to fill in the bubbles in order to properly answer a question. Circling the answer, or marking a bubble with an X or check mark, will not properly be picked up during the scanning process. On the bottom corner of the survey, you'll see a space for you to write your name, the name of the poll site you're at, and the time. Please fill this information out for every completed survey. Also note question number 9 in the New York City survey, or for the Boston survey, question 10. This question asks the voter if they encounter any voter problems. Remember this question, as this will alert you if the voter experienced a problem. So, using this form, you'll approach Asian American voters as they're exiting the polling place. Assuming they've voted, you'll ask the voters if they can fill out a quick survey. Always be polite and introduce yourself. For example, you can say, "Hello, my name is Brian Lee. Can you please fill out this exit poll survey?" Oftentimes, you'll need to explain what it's for. So, you can explain to the voter by saying, "This is an anonymous survey to gather data on Asian American voting patterns. We also want to make sure that you, the voter, did not experience any voting problems today. If voters have trouble speaking or understanding English, now's the best time to use your language skills if you have any." Do your best to answer the questions the voter may have. If the voter is still not interested after you explain what we're doing, then thank them for their time and move on. If they're interested in filling out the survey, give them a copy of the survey and a pen so they can fill it out. Surveys will be translated in various Asian languages, so be sure to make them available to the voter if they prefer a translated form. Allow the voter to complete the form independently, but make sure the voter answers the questions by filling in the bubble properly. Remember, the surveys will not scan properly if the answers are X'd, have check marks, or were circled. If the voter has trouble understanding the survey or difficulty filling out the form on their own, you may read the survey aloud to them and fill out their answers on the form for them. If the voter doesn't feel comfortable answering certain questions, they may skip the question. After the voter has completed the survey, quickly check question 9 for New York City or question 10 for the Boston survey to see if the voter experienced any problems when voting. If they answered the question, you must immediately follow up with the voter incident report form. Notice how this form asks for the voter's contact information. This is very important because without the voter's contact information, we cannot properly resolve the issue. You will also see that there are choices to select for what type of problem the voter experienced. These choices correspond to the answers for the voter problem question on the exit poll survey. Next, there's a space for the voter or for you to write down details of the incident, followed by a space for you to write the name of the poll worker, the poll worker's position or title, as well as the poll worker's jurisdiction. Finally, write down your name, phone number, and the time the intake was taken on the bottom of the form. When these forms are properly filled out with all the information, we may go forward with fixing the problem that day, depending on the severity of the issue. Otherwise, AALDEF will follow up with every voter who filled out an incident report form after Election Day to gather more information and work to fix every problem reported to us from Election Day. It is only by documenting these problems and getting voters to speak out about these issues first that we can then take the necessary steps to fix these issues. So, if you found that the voter responded to the voter problem section of the survey, please ask the voter to fill out a voter incident report form. You can say to the voter, "Excuse me, but I see that you experienced a problem when you tried to vote. Can you please fill out this incident report form so that we can fix the problem?" All information is confidential. Again, if the voter has any questions, do your best to answer them. These forms will also be available in different Asian languages to make the form easier to understand for voters who are limited English proficient. Another option is to just interview the voter on your own and ask all the questions necessary to fill out the form. On the details section, you will want to ask what happened exactly, where it happened, and also with who. If the problem was with a poll worker, it is very important that you get the poll worker's name and title. Oftentimes, the voter will not remember the poll worker's name, so ask them to at least give you a description, or have them point out to you who the poll worker was from a distance. Then, when you get the chance, try to walk over and copy down the poll worker's name from his or her name tag, which poll workers are required to wear. If you can't see the name tag, try and ask the poll worker for his or her name, but just remember to be very courteous. After the voter has completed the survey or incident report form, thank them for their time. After every incident report form is filled out, immediately notify us at AALDEF at 212-966-5932, and then report the problem again to the local election office. The poll site supervisor will have this number available. If you have email access on your phone, you can email us at votingrights@aaldef.org with the details of the problem. Again, remember to fill out the bottom of the form with your name, number, and time, and slip both the exit poll survey and incident report form into the form box. As a volunteer, you're only authorized to conduct the exit poll, document voter problems, and report problems. Do not intervene. After you've completed your volunteer shift, please email us at votingrights@aaldef.org with the subject line Election Day Summary Report, and summarize what you witnessed that day during your shift. If you're interested in post-election volunteer opportunities, helping us follow up with voters who experience problems on Election Day, please call our office at 212-966-5932 to schedule a time for you to come into the office. That concludes this training for AALDEF volunteers. Questions? Email us at votingrights@aaldef.org, or better yet, give us a call at our office at 212-966-5932. See you at the polls!